Welcoming everyone to another episode of the Hawks Eye Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Coots, and today we are going to be joined by Griffin Sturgeon of Seattle Overload Podcast. Griffin and Maddie Brown do a fantastic job breaking down Seahawks footage, giving you guys the insides and outs of schemes, personnel, percentages, and why they do certain things. Have Griffin come over here and give us a defensive breakdown at the quarter mark, rough quarter mark of the season is going to be fantastic. So we will get into that, but before we do, just as a reminder, everyone, help me keep growing my channel here at the Hawks Eye. Like, subscribe to the channel, click the notification buttons. We're on audio on Spotify. Unfortunately, I'm having issues with Apple and with iHeart of getting that up and running on that end, but there is audio on Spotify and over here on the YouTube channel. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, give me a rating over on Spotify. Will help me with the analytics over on that side as well. So after all that's being done and said, let's get into it. Defensive breakdown with Griffin Sturgeon.
Down and 10. A play fake to Walker. Sam rolls out near side. Throw is made. Touchdown! Seahawks! Jackson Smith-Njigba from 12 yards. Second and 4 from his own 34. McMahon throws intercepted again. It's Tupu. He's inside the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5. Touchdown Seahawks! 2 interceptions. 2 touchdowns for the Seahawks. A 34-yard return. Loaf with the Tupu. Welcome to the NFL, baby.
Griff, I'm so lucky to have you back on to the Hawks Eye Podcast. How you been, man?
Doing good, man. I'm happy to be on my first appearance of the Hawks Eye. So I'm excited to talk ball with you and get into this season.
Yeah, it'll be really exciting tonight. We're going to do a deep dive into what you've seen out of Mike Macdonald's defense and maybe give away some of the Seattle Seahawks secrets, if we'll put it that way, of what they've been doing to give them such success this year. So we'll start first, Griff, with, we know Mike Macdonald likes the term of chasing edges. We're going to set the edge to start this show. What is your first quarter kind of like impression of this defense so far and this team as a whole? Where are you kind of sitting at the quarter mark so far?
Quarter mark defense, I mean, they're certifiably a good defense. There's continuity from last year. There is no early season, like inconsistent high variance returns. We're like, all right, let's wait for the dust to settle. I mean, they came out ripping and running. Even the week 1 game, which was a frustrating loss, there was a lot of good defense played. They're starting to fix some of the kind of structural issues that they had even to end last year. They've improved their first unrun defense. They've improved their play action defense. There's a lot more multiplicity in the front structures. It's been really cool watching Macdonald continue to adapt to NFC football, heavier formations, heavier personnel, and the whole, like, that buzzword of multiplicity is a word that we love, right? In Baltimore, that was more in the pass coverage menu, but now we're seeing more multiplicity in the run tool menu and the run fronts and stuff. Just the kind of the basic defensive structure. So it's really cool to see him evolve in real time. And one of the things that really gets me excited about coaches is, like, what really hooks me in as just a fan and neutral observer, which I'm not a neutral observer in this case, but is when there's a clear problem, and then you can point on the screen to tangible things that they're doing to solve that problem. Because one, it's like, hey, they're addressing a problem, but then also there's commentary and what they think about football and what their solutions are. Like, every coach would do it a different way, right? So seeing his solutions has been really cool, and it also speaks to his own versatility as a coach. Like, he's not a rigid mind whatsoever. I was a little worried last year with some of it, just because it seemed so static up front. but he's really turned it on this year. So it's been exciting to see. There are still some warts that they need to figure out with the injuries to the secondary. I think it's fair to reserve, some judgment, just kind of let the dust settle. But at the same time, we get to see those depth players emerge. Darion Kendrick and like Josh Jobe has really come alive, and so just one that's a testament to their development. But it's also like once all these guys are healthy, how are they going to get them all playing time? So all in all, I'm really hyped about the defense. They still haven't slayed their stopping a top 5, top 10 offense dragon yet, but I feel way more confident about it because the things that we've seen with the last 3 games will definitely apply forward to those really like high-powered offenses. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and this weekend they very well may get to play one of those high-powered offenses with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into town. Obviously, the retro game, everyone's super excited for that 1976 jersey clash. I know I'm one of those fans who's excited for that, but it'll be interesting to see how they take on Baker Mayfield and Mbuka and, Cade Otton, and if Bucky Irving plays and if Chris Godwin plays. That's going to be a better test for them, I think, than some of the other teams, to your point, that they've played throughout the season on offense. So before we get into your breakdown and everything with this defense, Griff, I got to ask you, what do you make of these Riq Woolen trade talks? Is there smoke? Or I should say, is it smoke or is it truly a fire? Like, how do you view what Seattle will do with Riq Woolen in the next couple of weeks or even over the entirety of the season?
I think they had made their mind up on him, that they weren't planning on paying him like in the offseason. Between the rumors, the benchings for not necessarily on-field play, and then Brady Henderson's reporting, and we know he's pretty clued in, being an ESPN guy, has been covering the team for so long, of him saying that he had like 10% confidence that Woolen would be back. I mean, it makes sense that they would try to turn him into something. They would likely get a 3rd round comp pick if he leaves in free agency. So if they can try to get something a 3rd or better, then go for it. You might as well. It would be a little difficult to absorb his loss in the middle of the season. It would be easier to do it in free agency, but at the same time, you know exactly what you have in the secondary. If you trade him now, or at least before the deadline, you can evaluate everyone else because they all get bumped up a level in their role. And then you know how you need to roster in free agency. So it would kind of give you a head start in free agency and, hey, an extra draft pick. So that said, like, I do think the criticism of his actual on-field play is a little overbaked. I think it's not quite commensurate with reality entirely. There are certainly nitpicks, but like for me, he's not my cup of tea as a player for a variety of reasons. But value is still value. I mean, last year anyway, for my money was probably top 10, top 12 corner, just pure coverage. Since week 1, like his yards per cover snap leads the team. That doesn't mean you should ignore week 1 because that's still in the sample. But my thing is, like, he's going to have a game or two like that a year. Are you okay with that? Like, for me, I am, but it is kind of moot because they're probably not keeping him for a variety of reasons anyway. So if I had to guess, probably trade goes down in the next month or so.
So how would you grade his first 4 games of 2025 then, for you, in your opinion? If you had to give him an A, B schooling grade, where would you grade Riq Woolen's first 4 games, Griff?
Well, with 4 games, small sample, week 1's going to carry quite a bit of weight. So I'd probably have to give him a B. I will say, though, like we talk about player development and everything. For me, Woolen's issue was always the busts and pure zone coverage. So whether cover 3, cover 4, even cover 2, but say cover 3, cover 4, so much is one-on-one technique on the outside, right? It might as well be cover 1 unless it's an under route or something, right? But if you have a seam from the number 2 slot, you got to play some sort of zone eyes, right? You got to be able to fall off one, play a sail, or if one hitches, you got to go play your smash rule, right? Go jump the seam or whatever, overlap. Or if you're a cloud corner, you got to play high to low with your sail technique, all that stuff, right? So that was stuff that he was giving up completions left and right his rookie year. Then he got a little bit better year 2. But through 4 games, I mean, he hasn't given up any completions in pure zone technique. And so I feel like if we're going to get on him for his mistakes, we should acknowledge that there actually are areas that he's grown. And he does deserve credit for that. The one-on-one techniques, I mean, it's tough for me because when you put corners in the situations that McDonald puts his corners in, where like you really got to cover guys. And last year they were like the best late down pass defense, right? And I think you can draw a straight line between their cornerback room and their pass rush. But to that stat, I mean, it's being driven by their perimeter talent, by and large. This year they actually have fallen a little bit on third downs, but I think that's more for like noisy reasons. But as far as the one-on-one coverage goes, I mean, he was in off coverage, right? So the play to Pearsall, and I think that well, he was in off coverage. I mean, he read the double move. He just tried to play the ball, and that was just, he should have played the receiver, not the ball. And I think that was just a judgment call that he made, that he screwed up. Then the touchdown in the end zone, I mean, that was rough, but that was a broken play, and that's not like run of the mill corner stuff. So in my mind, it's like, how does that a play like that project forward? For me, it's just that sucks that happened. He needed to play it better, but that's not like a category of play where I'm like, is this going to keep happening, good or bad? Like, he probably won't even find himself in a scramble drill in that situation again, in the low red zone where he's got the number 3 guy and it just plays out that way. Like, it's just such a rare kind of football thing. As far as his actual press technique goes, and Maddie and I had a cover on Seattle Overload. Maddie, my cohort, we had a conversation about it, and he's a DB coach by trade, so he's way more versed in this than I am. He plays so like of the press techniques, like the step kick, right? Pete Carroll, like everyone uses step kick. It's not just Pete. Pete just says it, so we associate it with him. And Carl Scott's still his coach in Baltimore. Like they use step principles too when they're in press. Woolen uses the advanced technique, so he mirror steps. So his first lateral step will mirror whatever foot is coming forward from the receiver. Whereas that's the advanced ways, which it gives you an advantage of. That means you will always step to the release. You're not going to step to the wrong side if you're doing it right. If you do it poorly, because it's hard to do, then you're screwed. The easier way is the read step. So no matter what the receiver does, your outside foot, your step replacing with your outside foot, no matter what. So what that does is that it takes the thinking out of it. So you know what you're going to do every single time, kind of like a one gapper on the defensive line. The back foot comes forward no matter what. Whereas if you're two gapping and your feet are parallel to one another, the foot that comes up and down is dependent on what the guard or center or tackle is doing. There's thinking involved. So it's more like Joe gets to attack, react. Woolen plays the technique where he has to read, react, essentially. And so that can open you up to a lot of failures, but the routes he's giving up, when he is giving them up, it's not because he's losing at the line so much. It's been, again, it's like when he's been off, and the past 3 weeks, he hasn't given up a lot anyway. And to me, that's just him normalizing. But so what Maddie was saying though, is that within his mirror stepping, he's not putting his hands on the receiver as much. And it's a conundrum because like on that one comeback that would have helped him because there's route disruption. Like you defend comebacks by everything that happens before the ball comes to the receiver. You don't defend comebacks at the catch point. You defend it before the catch point, right? Because you got to disrupt the timing of the route. That's like when a quarterback throws a comeback, they're like, that was so inaccurate. I'm like, was it really inaccurate, or did the receiver not get to the spot that the quarterback expected? Because look at where the receiver is and the quarterback gets rid of the ball. So the flip side of that, the DB has to disrupt the route. So I am curious why Woolen isn't putting hands on receivers as much. It's almost like he doesn't want to disrupt the timing because he's hunting for interceptions. That's tinfoil hat theory. I don't know. So I don't know. My thing is, I think the depth in the cornerback room, they all kind of hedge against one another, and I'm afraid that the value of any one player would decrease if they lost another guy. I know I'm contradicting myself because I said I like the depth. It's just kind of a situation that you're just going to have to sail through and manage however you manage it. I don't think it'll be catastrophic if they lose him. I still think he's a really good cornerback. I bet you the team feels the same way. I bet they feel nuanced about it. And it's just a business decision. Like, all right, here's the value of the player. Here's the risk. Here's the contract. Like what do we? So I don't know. It was kind of a long-winded rant, but I'm kind of I like Woolen, but I get the drawbacks. So
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am with it. I think if you're going to trade Riq Woolen, I don't think it's just purely for draft capital. I don't think you see Seattle go, yeah, we're shipping you out. Like, to your point, like the conversation with draft capital probably starts at a third or a fourth, because if he walks in free agency, that is most likely what you're going to get is a third round comp pick or a fourth round comp pick. You're not going to trade Riq Woolen just to trade him for a, hey, we're going to get a fifth round draft pick here. We're prepared to ship this guy out. I think it's more of a, do we get a pick and a player back kind of a deal? Like, is there a nose tackle out there, a D tackle that Seattle wants to potentially add to this rotation to give Byron Murphy and some of these guys more rotational, rest? Is there maybe a guard out there they look that could come in and back up at one of the two spots, maybe even push Bradford at the right guard spot? Who knows what it is? I do think this doesn't come out on the mini buy unless there is more smoke and maybe some sparks actually igniting that smoke to get a trade done. We know John Snyder's generally pretty critical and pretty on point with these things when he decides to pull that trigger and leak information, which I think this is what this was. I don't think this was Riq Woolen. I think this is more from inside the Seahawks organization, leaking it to be, hey, come talk to us about Riq Woolen. But no, Griff, with everything you said there, I'm very much to the same point. Like, I'm not the biggest Riq fan either. I just don't think he's not my type of corner. Like, I see areas you can really take advantage of him in his game and the way he plays, more so than say other guys out there. Like, I don't think he's necessarily as a well-rounded corner as, like, say, a Devin Witherspoon on our roster already, or some of the other guys across the league. But with that being said, his athleticism and his, abilities, those physical abilities, are probably putting him, to your point, like as one of the top corners in the league because of those. And when it clicks, it is really, really good when it clicks. And yeah, he's had some rough points this year. It just seems his rough points have consistently come at critical points for the Seattle Seahawks. The 49er game, the Cardinal game, he had a few of them. And it'll be interesting to see what Seattle does. I think there's probably a trade, to your point, in the next month here with Riq Woolen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've got through that, let's click over onto your kind of likes and dislikes so far, man, on this first quarter for this defense. So, what I'll start with this question. What has been the single biggest improvement you've seen from Seattle's defense in 2025 compared to 2024 in the first couple weeks?
One phrase, it's the run tools from McDonald's. So essentially, like, he's finding ways to create bare spaced fronts, bare space on the D line. And why that's important is because one, bare space, which I know you know the answer to, but just for people listening, so that we know that we're all dealing with the same semantics here. Bare space is you got a zero technique nose tackle head up, right? Then you've got two players in the B gap. So either a 4-eye or in the 3 technique, 2-3 techniques. 2 4-eyes would technically be tight, but tight fronts and bare fronts are similar. So anyway, the point is that there are no bubbles in the interior. It spills everything to the outside. It's really hard for zone teams to get doubles. There isn't a lot of space for gap scheme unless it's to the C gap bubble or like maybe the D gap bubble, right? It just spills everything out. And then also, if it's hard to get doubles, if you have really good defensive linemen, they got one-on-ones. They just get to, kick butt all day long, right? But it's hard to pair bare space with nickel personnel, and Mike wants to stay in nickel personnel, right? So you can combine the two, like what Vic Fangio calls the penny package. Pete Carroll called it Falcon. I'm pretty sure Mike calls it Sync. So you're playing essentially like what it looks like a 5-1-5. And in order to do that, your nickel has to effectively be a linebacker, right? And so Devin Witherspoon at 180 pounds somehow can moonlight as a linebacker because he's one of the most incredible skill sets in the league right now. So he's playing a penny package. And then when he's in his 4-2-5 structure, when he is playing legit 4-2-5, he's finding ways to blitz into bare space post snap. So like run blitzing, fire zoning, slanting the 3 technique into the A gap, slanting the 1 technique into the opposite 3, slanting the strong side edge into the 3. So you get 3-0-3 spacing. And then you blitz that nickel off the edge. And then it's like, all right, you got 5 bodies of line of scrimmage. Even if that nickel I mean, the nickel's not going to set the edge on a tackle, right? But you're still making that tackle go get him. And when you go get him, that frees up Ernest Jones to flow to the ball, right? So it's all arithmetic in the box, right? And these are things that last year Mike was just sitting in his 4-2-5, and if they got a wing set, they just run toss to the wing, and everyone would get folded, and it would go for 7 yards. And their numbers against 12 personnel wing when they played their nickel, whether big nickel, small nickel, whatever, wasn't very good. And so now he's giving his guys chances. He's evening the math out, evening the structure, so the playing field is level. And oh, hey, we just have better personnel than you now. So it's when the conditions are equal, the talent gets to flaunt itself, is how I view it. But then he's also doing things, because if you want to keep a team out of, say, 5-1-5, right, just go into hurry up, don't let them substitute. He's able to take his standard 4-2-5 via DeMarcus Lawrence, kick DeMarcus Lawrence in from the edge to a 4-eye, and then roll the will down to that side and create a 5-1-5 look out of 4-2-5 personnel. You can't do that when DeMarcus Lawrence is, say, Darrell Taylor. You can do it when it's DeMarcus Lawrence. You can probably do it with Uchenna. They just haven't done it yet because he's so stout against the run for a smaller guy. And DeMarcus Lawrence himself is 270 max, but he plays so strong. So it's just really cool to see all this variety. They'll even take their 4-2-5 and just play it straight up, blitz the nickel, and then play like a cover 2 cloud over that blitzing corner, and then play some 2 deep 4 under fire zone just to get gapped out in the run. And so they've got so much variety. All of these standard modes of attacking nickel personnel from the offensive side is killed by what Mike is doing. And you never know which of those things that I mentioned he's going to do, because they can kind of hide it, whether what they do pre-snap, post-snap. So it's been really cool to watch that. I mean, I characterize it as like he's honoring NFC math in the run game now. He's playing NFC defense, and like the last thing this defense needed was improving its first down menu, and he's doing it now. And as the third down numbers, I think, will continue to catch up to what they did last year, they're going to be a complete defense, and they're going to be firmly in the top 5. They're not there yet. They're like 9th, but they're going to, or 8th, but they're going to keep climbing, like by the EPA and stuff. So that's what's got me excited so far with the defense.
So on the flip side of that, what's probably one of the most, annoying, frustrating things that you have seen from this defense that's carried over from 2024 that necessarily hasn't gone away yet?
Structurally, I don't think there's a thing where I'm like, oh, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's more personnel based. So like last year, the first 3 weeks, they were like breathing fire defensively, right? But if you watch the film, the dig routes were there all day long. Just the quarterback wasn't throwing them because of who they were playing. And then they play the Lions. And what does Jared Goff do? He only throws dig routes and choice routes, right? So it killed them. It's like, all right, we revealed the linebacker weakness that was always there. Then you get Ernest Jones, and he cleans a lot of it up. They still struggle against play action. This year, there isn't like, oh, the quarterback's just missing this. What is available, I would say, is not structural. It's so much like, yeah, an elite throw would probably get in here, but it's not like an easy money stuff. So when Matthew Stafford does his dunking on whatever secondary with Puka, Nakua, and Devontae Adams, so like in the high intermediate, when a quarter safety has to nail on a dig, it's going to be bang, bang. It's going to be tight coverage, and they're going to hit a couple of them. When you got to throw a corner out to the cloud side, it's going to get over the corner, under the, like those are just hard to defend, right? So I don't think they have structural issues, but just high-end drop back game, high executing will give them some trouble, because as much as I like the secondary, I mean, they always say a great throw beats great coverage, right? As much as I like the secondary, I don't think they have like a lot of juice from the safeties. I think they have a lot of soundness from the safeties. I think the safeties are sound and smart and alert. I mean, Julian's pretty fast, honestly, but he's not like the most explosive out of his stance type guy. So yeah, elite stuff there is going to get them. One-on-one situations, Devin, Riq, Job, they're going to do well, but they're going to get got a couple of times in those games, right? It's just going to happen. It's just how much is it going to happen? So you're kind of just, it's like the Golden State Warriors with 3-point variance. When they're at their peak, they have a week where they just don't shoot threes very well. It just happens, right? This cornerback room will have a game where they don't defend, the isolation routes or the deep stuff well. So it's really just a matter of how frequently are they going to lose the tough stuff. If I had to really nitpick, man, I hate to do I love Kobe Bryant. He's such a cool player, such a good juice guy. He's kind of the weak link in the secondary, I think, overall. He can't really drive on the tough stuff. He's a great energy guy when it's teed up for him, and other guys are kind of creating the play. He gets to clean it up. He can, like that one play where he nailed down on that check down, and he missed the tackle against the Cardinals, but he still made a good read and trigger on it. He can make it when it's teed up for him. But like against the 49ers, when he's playing a cloud, he couldn't go from one, then bounce back to two on the post when because teams like to run those skinny posts against cover two, right? He's just not going to make those plays. And Stafford loves to throw benders, right? So I'm not going to hold that against him because he's not supposed to be your Pro Bowler, right? He's supposed to be your Geno Stone. And so he's probably a weak link in a relative sense. And then Tyrese Knight, Drake Thomas, whatever's going on at weak side linebacker, they get picked on in the run game a little bit with motion. And then they also get picked on with choice routes and stuff. So it's a little hit or miss there. But if you're going to have a weak spot, have your third best safety, or at least the guy that's supposed to be your third best safety, and your weak side linebacker and a too high scheme be your weak spots. It's easier to manage. But structurally, man, I don't think they have an on paper weakness that's been revealed yet.
And that's something I can say that's probably definitely a plus from last year, because last year at the bye week or the trade deadline, we kind of figured out real quickly, hey, our inside linebackers are this massive issue on this defense. So one thing I want to ask you, though, to you, does this defense feel more physical this year? Or is it just that way, or it appears that way because it's schematically operating at a higher efficiency this year?
I mean, I'd say a combination. I mean, yeah, it does feel that way, but it feels that way because you're letting defensive linemen play half man, and you get to do that when you find ways to play gapped out. I mean, like 2022 year, like Poona Ford did not all of a sudden become a bad football player. He looked like it because he was asked to two gap all the time, no matter what, and from a too high shell. Have him one gap, he looks good. But like to a more extreme example, Leonard Williams, who was amazing, and he looked good last year too. But everyone just gets to come forward all day long, and there's more TFLs. They're more keyed in on how run concepts are attacking them. So it definitely. I mean, I think some guys said that any given defensive call, like any coverage call, any whatever the run fit is, any scheme is just a collection of techniques. So like the scheme exists to accommodate fitting together a variety of techniques, and techniques are what an individual player is doing. So the scheme is allowing defenders to play fast techniques instead of slow techniques. And sometimes playing a slow technique is advantageous, right? Like is scheme fast, scheme slow, like it's all context dependent. Right now, the context they're in merits playing fast. So Mike is giving calls, lets them play essentially fast techniques. You're in split leg stances, that back foot's coming forward and you're hitting someone in the mouth. Like that's the ethos right now. And it's cool to see that translate into better execution and definitely more physicality.
So the last thing I'll ask you about this before we move on to another part of this defense is, what would you say is the one signature trait of this defense so far? Like if there was something that the Seahawks do better than anybody else right now in the NFL, what do you think it is?
Oh man. That's tough because they're doing a lot of things like really well right now. I would say right now they're spot dropping as a unit back seven. For some reason, spot dropping has been associated with soft, and like to me that drives me up a wall, because when you find the defense that people choose to characterize as aggressive, I promise you they're spot dropping all over their tape. They're just really good at it. Like that's what it is. And how you become good at spot dropping is you just, all right, what's the formation? What's this offense's tendency out of that formation? That will inform how I drop. That will inform my spot drop. And then I will melt accordingly with quarterback intentions. So, I mean, the underneath coverage is Devin Witherspoon or Kendrick, doesn't matter, and Ernest Jones. They've got KJ Wright's brain. They just know what's going on behind them all the time. And watching them in unison is really special. So, and also Julian Love's ability to understand when he, like, what his issues are as his own defender, whether it's quarters or he's playing cover 2, or he's spinning down to a flat, or even playing the post occasionally. He hedges against his, maybe say, lacking, like, very few guys are 100% A tier elite athlete, right? So whatever athletic deficiencies he has in a relative sense, he hedges against with his own tape study, with his own understanding of, like, hey, I'm a quarter safety. We're in a 2x2 look, and I've got the number 2 on the line of scrimmage. The number 1 is off. I know the number 1's probably running a little snag, and the number 2's running a dig route, like, or reverse it, right? He knows whoever's on the line of scrimmage is running that dig. Whoever's not is running the underneath. And so he's breaking on the route before the route even breaks. Like, that's film study, right? And he's squeezed a lot of dig routes this year. If we remember 2023, his first year, he gave up like 6 dig routes the first month and a half of the season. I had never seen a Seattle safety do that. And, like, it was rough. And I was kind of leading the hate train, but, like, man, Julian Love's disappointing me right now. I liked him in New York more. Past 2 years, he's been defending that really well. So I would just say, like, the pattern matching, the understanding concepts, the zone dropping is really, really, really good right now.
All right, so let's move on to this topic here, Griff. Seattle's pass rush this year, like, it's all of a sudden awoken, and it's not like they've added some elite pass rusher to this rotation. Like, they didn't go out and get Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons. They got Chenna back this week against the Arizona Cardinals, but really it's been Derek Hall, it's been Boy Mafe, Byron Murphy, Leo Williams, Tank Lawrence. Why is this pass rush clicking? Like, we've now seen them they got 6 sacks in this last game, but why is it clicking so well this year, where last year was kind of this up and down roller coaster with when this pass rush was really going to be effective?
I'd say a lot of reasons. One, because the run defense is so good on 1st and 10, you're creating more 2nd and longs that lets them key the pass on 2nd and long, right? But then the other thing is, when it is 1st and 10 and it's a pass, because the pass rush is good on 1st and 10 too, because they're playing more gapped out against the run, whether they're spinning the safety down, or they're, again, like, all the blitzing and stuff, right? Because you're gapped out and you're playing more one gap principles, that means you also get to come forward at the snap too. So playing a run fit philosophy that lets you be more aggressive against the run also lets you be more aggressive against the pass, because you're not playing a passive, like, read react technique. You're playing attack react. So if you key pass, you just get to go, and you're already aligned to your angle on it. You don't have to expand out to the outside shoulder. You're already aligned on the outside shoulder, right? Then the other thing is, when they're really trying to game the protection, like when they're really dialed up for it, as you know, like, they're not blitzing very much. They're not even doing the replacement pressure. So very little sims, very little creepers. When I say they're not blitzing, they're blitzing the run, but it doesn't show up in the charting for it, right? They only chart passes for that stat. They're, like, they understand, like, because you see so much half slide in the NFL, like, just 2 guys go one way, 3 guys go the other way, right? As you know, whoever that nose tackle is, away from the slide, that A gap rusher, he's really feeling when the center leaves, and it's really hard for a guard to set to a one technique, and they just get upfield. Byron Murphy is so explosive. There are some misgivings about him playing nose tackle against the run. I've been a little disconcerted with, like, how much he's getting moved in the run game a little bit when there's a combo on him that holds for a while. But when he's in the A gap and it's a 4-man rush, that guard goes to slide to Leo. That's a hard angle to block on someone so explosive and squatty like that. So he just knifes that A gap. And then they're also, because they're sliding so much to Leo, and because there are more pass rush opportunities, the stunt game that they're running, the tech stunts, the tackle and stunts have been really effective. And also, like, just Mafe and Derek Hall, like, they're just good edge rushers, Derek Hall's speed to power, and him being able to transition his power into a rip, kind of like how Chris Clemens used to do. Like, he's bull rushing you. He's rushing a power path. He just kind of bends the guy. And it's like, I'm just going to rip now because I opened you up, right? That's what Derek Hall is doing. And Uchenna, like, it's so cool to see him. Like, his bag is back. Like, that first step explosiveness is back. So he's got he's got quite a bit to him as a pass rusher. I mean, he knows how to corner, he can rush angles and stuff. So I think it's a combination of like you've fixed your systemic issues. It's letting guys play faster, and when you stuff the run of 1st and 10, you get to feast on 2nd and 3rd. So I mean, that's kind of what it is to me.
So the thing I'll ask you about Byron Murphy here is what do you think has led to because last year he was good against the run. We saw that as a rookie player. Like he was really good stopping the run, being a good run gap, defender. What has led to this pass rush boost from him this year? Kind of like what we saw at Texas, and we were kind of expecting when we drafted him, is now starting to come to fruition here in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
What has led to the Byron Murphy, ascension, I should say, as a pass rusher as well?
Yeah. A lot of it's probably just year 2 development. I mean, so much of year 1 was getting his feet wet. He had good film. There just weren't a lot of opportunities. Again, it goes back to there are more opportunities this year. It's probably just more of a focus for him. Excuse me. You're seeing like that forklift move, like when he's a 2-eye and you kind of have to match hands. Like, because that's the first thing you have to do. You see him working that forklift for just wrist control, and he just kind of like rotates the guy out of view, essentially. But then also, I think it's probably understanding protections, feeling out when that guard is sliding to him versus when he's sliding away, and being opportunistic. So many veteran defensive linemen win with film study. They don't win with their body anymore. That's how some of them age so well. It's just because they're computers, and I don't know how they process that quickly. But I think Byron, at least for the pass, is really getting there.
Yeah, I was gonna say his one sack it was really interesting to your point on stunts and stuff. We're talking, defense here with Griffin Sturgeon. His sack on Spencer Rattler, where you see, I think it was Tank came in, and on offensive side, we always call it the ricochet stunt. Where you have your end come in and basically pick off the guard, and your D tackle on the opposite side will then stunt around and loop around and fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
And Rattler walks up into the pocket thinking he's got this clear escape route, and all of a sudden Byron Murphy's right in his face and in his grill and just eats him alive for a sack. And to your point, those are some stunts we didn't really see a lot of last year. We didn't see it, or they tried them, they just didn't see the execution as well. And so the last question I'll ask you on this pass rush is, do you think what they've put forth in these first 4 games here is sustainable over the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so, because they have so many guys. Like an individual edge rusher or pass rusher will ebb and flow anyway. So some guys will probably dip for a month, but then the other guy will probably pick up the slack. And, like this is only the first game where we really saw Chenna involve himself. So I just think there's so much going for them, and they've got. I know DeMarcus Lawrence, his win rate is being charted really low, and I did not. I watched his 4 games last year. I'm like, yeah, he's an awesome run defender, but the pass rush is done. But that said, though, like he's winning the corner. I don't know how he's being charted. He's got weight. Like the cross chop is still there. Like he always loved his cross chop, right? In Dallas when he did get you sacks. I don't know. I feel like he's not like a negative out there as a pass rusher. So yeah, I see this sustaining, maybe not, I don't know, to this precise level, but I think it'll keep up where like there's still a top 10 unit rushing the passer.
So talking about rushing the passer, talking about this defense, there's a guy that potentially is going to be coming back this week, it sounds like, and that's Nick Emmanwori. And he's kind of like, I said on a show earlier today that I was on, it's like Thanos, Mike McDonald's like Thanos here, and he's got his infinity gauntlet, and he's got all these stones, except he's been missing the one final stone to complete the gauntlet, and that's Nick Emmanwori. He had him for like a half second in that 49ers game, and then he got injured. What are you looking for with Nick Emmanwori's return to this defense? What do you think we may see more of, first off, schematically from this defense?
Well, they might feel inclined to nickel blitz a little bit more. So like I mentioned how they are blitzing the nickel to kind of create bare space or just get kind of manufacture being gapped out line of scrimmage. So they'll probably do that even more with him, especially against 12 when like you get the wing sets and the quasi wing sets where they create that C and D gap. Like you got to get the nickel involved, like hammering the line of scrimmage. Otherwise, you don't want tight ends climbing to your nickel, right? You want the nickel to come at them with momentum. Unless that nickel is 230 pounds, and let's see what he can do with that. We do want to see how physical Emmanwori can be. So I think that will be part of it. Just also by product of his speed, we might see some really exotic disguised coverages where you're spinning him to the post even, where you wouldn't be expecting that. It's possible that their replacement pressure packages are with him on the field only. And they might be hiding that for when they expect the really high level play action concepts that are really tough to defend and stuff. Like the pocket play action stuff. Because play action was still an issue. As good as their pass defense was last year, play action was an issue for them. So he could do fun things with him there. But then also we got to think about him as a dime will, for a variety of reasons. But one, that's just another opportunity for him to play football, box, really learn the box mechanics, which will help him at nickel too. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how much they ease him in, but I am excited to kind of finally see what he looks like in this picture.
So the one thing I'll ask about the Nick Emmanwori thing, and maybe tie it a little bit into the Riq Woolen conversation a little bit earlier there, Griff, is when you bring him in now, and Josh Jobe has been playing so well, does this potentially have a situation where you end up on the field with Devin Witherspoon potentially outside, Emmanwori as your nickel, and Josh Jobe as your other corner, and Riq's not even on the field? Do you see that potentially being something that could transpire as early as this weekend?
Yeah, I think there will probably be a series or two where they might experiment with that. Yeah, so I'm trying to think what personnel is the Bucks. I mean, they're typically 11 personnel because they have the receivers, but Evans might be out, or he is out. Yeah. I don't quite. Yeah, so we might see some 12. Yeah, I'm sure they'll mix and match, and then also I would try to find a way to get Kendrick on the field somehow too. So we might see where Devin and Jobe are outside, Kendrick's at nickel, and Emmanwori is at will, and Jones in the middle. I mean, they can really mix and match. We also though might see, let's not forget, Emmanwori is a safety, right? They might try to spell Kobe with Emmanwori, so they can get Emmanwori and Devin both in the slots or just in the interior of the defense as well, to just experiment with that. So the bottom line is they've got options, right? So
it's like I said earlier, it's getting that final stone of that gauntlet,
yeah,
for Mike Macdonald. He can kind of do what he wants now once he gets this piece back. But one thing that was really cool that we're going to talk about here, Griff, is you brought some film for us to actually break down, or you're going to break it down. I'm going to sit here and listen to you break it down, and so will the viewers. But we'll get into that right after this. Is your brand standing out online or just blending in? At designdrip.ca, they deliver creativity that flows straight to your brand, from stunning social media graphics and sleek websites to marketing campaigns that actually get results. They keep your brand looking fresh, modern, and impossible to ignore. Design Drip has the tools, the vision, and the creativity on tap. Don't settle for the ordinary. Let your brand drip with style. Visit designdrip.ca today. We're going to have Griffin Sturgeon now break down some of the film he's brought in to just talk us through some of the cool things the Seahawks defense is doing. So, Griff, I'll leave it in your hands, man. Walk us through it.
All right, so I selected a few plays. I'll look at what I was talking about with the run defense, the different ways that Macdonald is fitting the run at his kind of base, not as in base personnel, but base or core presentations that he gives offenses. So the wrinkles and the stemming off of those looks, his off-speed pitches, if you will. So first play here, I'm going to pause it here to kind of give context. So quarter one.
Griff, one thing. Can you make it bigger? Go to the big screen version?
Yeah.
There we go. That's perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pause it here and I'll give context before I run the play. I'll run the play, but I want to share why the play is significant, because instead of just saying oh, it's cool that they stuffed the run here. So the 49ers are technically in 21 personnel. Juice Check is there kind of aligned as tight end. So it's effectively 2x2 12. But as you can see, Seattle's in nickel personnel, right? And it's Nick Emmanwori. They're playing nickel to the slot, to the field here. Last year, this is what Seattle would line up in, and what you see is what you would get post-snap. And they struggled against 12 personnel out of nickel. They struggled against 12 personnel period out of this look. And the reason for that is if you just count the blockers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers form 8 gaps, you've only got 7 guys in the box. So to accommodate that, you'd have the defensive linemen. They would play in kind of parallel stances. So right here, they're split leg. Last year, they were more parallel, or kind of a really, really tight alignment, so that they could 2-gap or maybe quasi 2-gap, play gap and a half, primary, secondary, etc. And the reason for that was that they could accommodate the fact that they're down a defender in the box, so that they could fall back and play the other side, effectively 2-gap off of the guard, center, or what have you. And then the linebackers, likewise, because there are 3 open gaps in the front and there's only 2 linebackers, you're tasking 3 open gaps with 2 guys. So as a product of that, you have to play laterally. You don't have the luxury to go downhill and just fit the gap that you're aligned in. You have to follow the running back and track the running back, stack, track, fall back, they call it. So essentially ball fitting. This year, to make this easier, Mike is, and I'll just run the play so you guys can see it. Mike is involving the nickel in a variety of ways. And I'll run that so you guys can actually see what happens. They stuff the run. So one, they're blitzing the nickel, but they're not just blitzing the nickel. They are slanting the defensive line from this over front look into what is called bare space. So there, I'll show the end zone angle so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So they're in their over front, right? They've got kind of a loose 1 technique here. They've got a 3 technique, your edges, right? So post snap, you're going to see them. Murphy will, I think he might stay actually. He might gain a gap. He kind of stays. He kind of loops into a 4 technique. But you see Leo move into the A gap, like way in there, and then you see. And then you see DeMarcus Lawrence. See what happens. Am I BSing here? So he doesn't quite get into the B gap, or does he? Can I count? Yeah, he does. He does slant into the B gap. So post snap, you have bare space, meaning you've got a B gap player, A gap player, B gap player, and then the nickel replaces your edge, and he's kind of like your weak side outside linebacker. So now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bodies in line of scrimmage. You've created essentially 3-4 spacing post snap. And as you can see, one, you're not just adding numbers, but it lets everyone play free and aggressive. No one's blocking Leo here. No one's blocking DeMarcus Lawrence, and it's killing the run. So it's McDonald scheming fast. He's letting the guys play fast techniques. They're not just playing slow where they just stand up their blocks and hope to win. It's really hard to sustain that in the NFL. Very, very few teams can stand up in an over front from a 4-down over front with a 2 high shell and expect to stuff the run over and over and over again. It's really hard. And so the other plays that I've got will show other ways that they're kind of creating either bare space or adding fitters to the run fit off of that core 4-2-5 look. So what do I have here? Quarter 2. Sorry, this might take me a second. Shoot, I might have missed that one. All right, I might be able to find another 49er example. Sorry, Bryce, this might take me a second.
No. All good, man. All good. So the thing that I found really interesting in that, though, Griff, to your point, is just the way the group on that D line is now in unison. Like they're actually working together. They're not working kind of what I thought last year, which I saw was guys really didn't know how the other guys were going to react around them to certain movements they wanted to do, whether it was stunts, what it was. Now it seems that they actually, from Byron to Leo to, even Dexter, Tank Lawrence to Marcus Lawrence being there, they seem to be more in sync with their movements as a unit now.
Definitely. I agree. It's choreographed. They know what's expected of them. There's very little hesitation. There's a lot of clarity. All right. So this next play, so how I talked about in the first play where they create bare space post snap, this time they actually align in a bare front. Again, McDonald calls this sync. Excuse me. I'm going to start with the end zone angle just so people can understand the structure of what I'm talking about. So for starters, they're in their 4-2-5 personnel, right? You got 4 defensive linemen. This is DeMarcus Lawrence. He's an edge, right? And then you've got Byron Murphy, your nose, Leo, your 3, and then Derek Hall is your other edge. You've got 2 linebackers, true linebackers, Ernest Jones, Drake Thomas, and Witherspoon, except as you can see, and I'll go back to the sideline angle. As you can see, what they do is they kick DeMarcus Lawrence into a 4-eye. So he's a B-gap player, and then they roll their weak side linebacker, Drake Thomas, down to the edge. So they have created a 5-1-5 picture with their 4-2-5 personnel pre-snap. So this is another way that McDonald is creating a different look with the same personnel grouping. Because you can always substitute, but you want to be able to not tip to the offense all the things you can do with you don't want to tip to them what you're going to do out of each personnel package. So this is McDonald being flexible, versatile, and creative. So even though Derek Hall has his hand in the dirt, it's essentially like a 3-4 spaced front, or an odd spaced front, bare spaced front. And again, that bare space, it makes it hard to get offensive linemen to sustain or hold combos. If they do hold the combo, Ernest Jones is free to flow. And then again, they're too high, so they're down a guy in the box, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers forming 8 gaps. You've got a 7-man box, unless you blitz your nickel and cap him with the safety, which is what we see here. So Devin goes, and even though Devin himself isn't making the play, just by virtue of him going, it changes the math. It changes the blocking rules. Look at the tackle come get him. That frees up Derek Hall. The center can't reach Leo because he gets to play fast because, again, 5 bodies in line of scrimmage. He just gets to go, and it kills the run. Last year, they would have lined up in this first, if it was, say, a 1st and 10 or even not, they probably would have ran some sort of toss to the tight end side, get 4 extra or 2 extra blockers to that side with the fullback, and they get folded on the edge. So it's just, I'll run it again. It's just not happening this year. And it's just another way that McDonald is creating the same thing post-snap. So it's like you start pre-snap in one area, but you all end up at the same spot again. All right, so headed to and then Bryce, if you had any comments, like please jump in. I know I'm just kind of rambling, but
oh no, this is great, and this is kind of exactly why I wanted to have you on the show here, Griffin, so you could break this all down. But the thing I'm noticing is it for an offense, especially the way they're aligning, it gives you kind of misguided information on what you think you can attack. Like the basic, to what your point, like 3-4 principles, I want to run inside on those because of the way that the gaps present themselves. I want to go in between, guard and tackle. I want to run, gap pull kind of stuff, and even inside zone because of how the number should work out for me mathematically. But like to your point, when Devin Witherspoon is shooting that outside and pulling my tackle because he has to go out and he has to potentially deal with that now frees up, to your point, more one-on-one matchups on the inside, and then they actually are bringing more pressure into that spot. It makes things more challenging, and because you're now presenting misguided information to an offense, they can check into things. Purdy may have checked very well out of that toss into that run because of how the front was presented to himself.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're giving those offenses looks they're not used to seeing from Seattle too, right? Because it's like, oh, well, this is different for them. They don't do this stuff. So this next play with the Saints, I chose this one because they're not in nickel. It's just straight up base. 12 personnel. They're in 3-4. Last year they would play kind of play an under front to a wing set, especially at a 12. So you'd have a Byron would be a 1 technique. You'd have your 3, and then Leo would probably be in a 5 or something. So they play a 5-man under front. This year, we're just seeing more bear, just straight up 3-4 bear, like old school, Rex Ryan, Pete Carroll did a lot of it in 2021. And again, it clogs up the interior, but you're giving Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, you're giving 2 of these 3 guys a 1-on-1. And it's like, good luck, right? With these guys. So I'll run the play so people can see what's happening here. I think it's I think this is gap scheme with like a guard kick out. What would you call this?
Yeah, it's basically a gap scheme. Like for me, when I'm looking at this, you're basically running almost double counter like guards because both guards are theoretically pulling in this in a way.
Okay.
Um, if you look at your one guard, right? So like you're running zone to the left, but you're pulling your guard and stepping down. It's kind of like almost like a half zone because if you look at the left side, or sorry, in this case, if we're looking at the
Yeah.
Saints offense, the right side, the left tackle, left guard, and center are basically running zone.
Yeah, there's zone
Your
stepping.
guard, but your front side's basically kicking out. Like you're
Yeah.
almost what I would actually theoretically call it,
Oh,
Griff,
yeah.
is I'd almost call it like a split inside zone. It's
Interesting.
the same.
Okay.
So, like, the reason I say that is because sometimes what you'll see very similarly to this is if you pause it, you'll see that tackle or that reduced receiver that's over DeMarcus Lawrence come
Yeah.
across the formation and kick out the end. But in
Oh,
this
I
case, you're
see what
letting
you're
the guard
saying.
do that, right? And your guard's now kicking out the end, and you're trying to run up into that same area. So it's like an inside zone, but it's basically with a slight pull to it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I conceptually I agree. Like this is a zone call. It's like, I mean, Kubiak will do this, but Sean Payton too.
Yeah,
They to a tight end side, they love the tackle pull wide zone adjustment where
yeah,
the tight end pins and then the tackle
yeah.
kicks. It's like a double pin front side, but the guard's doing the pulling.
Correct.
That's interesting. So I mean, like more to the point, that hurts this front, right? It hurts this front on paper. Because you can get C and D gap issues out of a bare front, right? Because that's where the bubbles are. You've got a double bubble here. But look at this. The only guy getting doubled really, while Leo's getting doubled, he just kicks ass. But
Yeah.
Jaron Reed gets the backside single block, right? And he just works it down and kills it. So I mean, I always believe like if you have good defensive tackles, I know it hurts your pass rush because of angles, but if you put 3 bodies in between the tackles, whether it's an eagle front or a true bear, you're going to stop everything. Like if you're good enough, if you get bubble issues to the front side, like C gap, D gap issues, just slant into it and you'll fix it. Like I've seen too many teams in the NFL with good personnel never lose in this stuff. So it's cool to say that Seattle's got the personnel to do this. Also, I want to say Derek Hall makes a great play as well. But
The interesting thing about this too, Griff, is Ernest Jones does not get a hand put on him. He is
no,
allowed to read this, fill if he needs to. Like, this is really good D tackle play because of what Byron Murphy does. Yeah, he gets blocked out of the screen, but he doesn't let anyone get anywhere near Ernest Jones. So if Kamara does sneak through there and get by Reed, Jones just cleans it right up. He basically can scrape and play.
yeah. Ernest Jones ball keying is insane. I don't know how he feels it out. Like he predicts the future sometimes. I would love to see how he watches film on running backs because he seems to know them better than they know themselves a lot of the time. But we'll see what you're looking at from the end zone angle here, because he's aligned in the backside A. So he's probably his official rule is probably, so I think Murphy's playing a lag technique, so backside A. So Jones's rule is probably playing front side A to backside C, A to C, right?
Yeah.
And he's playing which one dependent on what the running back tells him to play, essentially, right? So if he presses the A, go to the A, be ready to fall back to the C. So he goes, it kind of everything disappears front side. So he's smart to hold it, and then he just sits and waits. And if that ball cuts back, Jones is right there. So
Well, and what's really interesting here from the Saints is usually when you teach zone this way, usually you have a guard or whoever can eventually get leverage to deal with the linebacker pulling or scraping across. So whoever's flowing. So in this case, given how this is on Byron Murphy there being the 0 or the nose, the guard gets control. The center should be able to peel off, but he can't. And the one thing I'll say that I think Byron does a really good job of is he grabs and holds on because that center theoretically should be able to leak off. And if that play gets extended farther, his job is now to wall off Ernest Jones. But because
right.
Byron and Jaron do such a good job, Jones can kind of just sit there, read it, key on where, okay, is Kamara going to hit the backside coming out? Nope. Okay, cool. I can just help close up the rest of the front side of this play.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you can stop the front side of the combo from climbing, that you kind of sacrifice yourself in service of the linebackers
Yeah,
to stay free.
exactly.
So I definitely see that. Puna Ford, he would pad back on the guard here. Because Puna would try to be the one to make the play, and it would work when he played the nose tackle and bear. But it's to the point of there's different ways to do it, right?
The best one I think we've seen do it in years in Seattle is Brandon Mebane. He was phenomenal at allowing Bobby and KJ and that linebacking core to not get touched and do exactly what Ernest Jones here. Just scrape, fill, read, key, and go.
For sure. One comment I want to make about Derek Hall, because I've only looking at one snap from the Saints here, is because the front side he gets kind of gap scheme vibes, right? Because of what his key does, his visual key, the second tight end here. So he's on the front side of the play and the running back is away from him, right? So he knows if he blocks down, he is not squeezing the backside. He knows he's got a puller coming his way in all likelihood, right? Just out of like sheer like formation alerts. So I'll go to the sideline angle. As soon as his visual key blocks down, instead of squeezing as though he were on the backside of zone, right? He gets in the backfield to go meet the kick out. And that kills the play. Like the way you kill so many kick out schemes is just crunch the kick out, right? Or just beat him to the spot and work inside him completely. And this is all just based off of reading what his tight end does in combination with where the back is, unless it's like same side zone, which you're not going to get from this formation. He knows immediately this angle of departure means I have a 300-pounder coming at me right now. He knew this guard was coming before he even looked at him. And he meets him 2 yards in the backfield, which helps save the play. The edge play this game against the Saints was insane with all the counter they ran. They just killed so many plays in the backfield because of it. So
the interesting thing on that too, Griff, is the fact that when Derek Hall comes up and meets the guard, he makes the guard go parallel. He doesn't meet him on the angle. So now Derek's got that two-way go where I can still collapse the run, but if this guy bounces it, I can then still shoot upfield if I need to.
Totally agree. And like I like Boye Mafe, but Derek Hall is definitely going to make him expendable if Uchenna stays healthy. So like I like Mafe a lot. He played well these games. You know, like he's pass rushes there and stuff. It's just like Derek Hall just might jump him, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so Arizona, I got another fun one. 1349 quarter one. I got to remember which one this is. Oh, okay. All right, so this is like pulling at my heartstrings. So the other way to play the run from a two-eye presentation is just spin the safety down, like in play, get regular gapped out. You know, like don't ever forget about like playing gap, just putting the safety in the box. So again, we have 12 personnel and you're playing nickel. So what do? It's another option in your bag. And this time there is no movement up front. There is no blitz. It's just, hey, get the safety down, add a number, add a hat to the box. It's 8 versus 8 gaps versus 8 defenders. And the downstream effect of inserting Kobe is that all of the defensive linemen, they get to bring this back foot, gets to come forward, and they get to play half the man. They don't have to worry about playing really thick, heavy to the block and having to work back to their secondary as much as they would if Kobe stayed where he was. And then again, that downstream effect, that means the linebackers just to go shoot their gap. They get to flow. Look at Ernest flowing. Now you might say, well, why doesn't Ernest do that every time? He doesn't get a lot of TFLs. Well, it's like, well, when he's ball fitting, it's a different technique. You have to play laterally. Now that they're gapped out, that they're gap fitting, he gets to key his block and fire off his key and just go forward. He doesn't have to worry about falling back. So it's just all of these. It's just yet again, like, what is this? Literally the fourth way he's fit the run out of 4-2-5, right? Like, it's the more you can do. From Mike's perspective. Now, I will say, Maddie and I made a comment last year that a lot of their run defense problems, even when they would spin the safety down, they would what is called double rotate, which is just a term, a semantics term, but which is to say that you're spinning your run support down to the same side as the 3 technique, which is a problem if you are, say, in an underfront and you're spinning, say Murphy was the 3 technique, Leo was the 1, and you're spinning Love down, you've got way too many bodies to the side of the line where it's covered. That means to fit the front side gaps, the linebackers would be way diagonally aligned to their gap that they need to play, and they were getting gashed. You can also do it, it can also be a problem in an over front, but against the 4-man surface, 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got a C-gap bubble. It's not really a problem. So they are double rotating here, which is usually not good. But in this case, it's fine because he's being rotated to an open gap, and the other linebackers are aligned to their gap that they have to play. So you could just see how fast everyone gets to play. Once again, Murphy's kind of getting moved on the combo. I personally would like to see him find a way to kind of create daylight between the two. Or at least hold ground a little bit, but still, to your point, Bryce, I mean, look, these guys are free. Jones is a banshee into the backfield. So, and Leo, look at how Leo creates daylight. He uses the, he gets his outside hand on the shoulder pad of the guard and is able to get skinny. That's for a big man. That's the technique Puna 4 would use. I would like to see, usually smaller guys play that technique where they try to get skinny and almost get perpendicular to the line of scrimmage with their chest, you know. If Murphy doesn't want to do that, it'd be nice if he could get knocked back into the guard and actually create like vertical displacement between the center and the guard, like horizontally, like where they're like, you know, like this, you know. That was another thing that like Puna 4 would do occasionally. And the reason why I keep bringing Puna up is that in theory, Byron Murphy is going to be like Puna 4 on steroids. So I feel like stylistically, if he could mimic his approach, they'll be really good. But back to the main show, this is just Mike McDonald finding another way to, again, be multiple against the run, which is just as important as being multiple against the pass, because really bad run defense can scuttle having good pass defense. So it's just really cool to see that, I think. And then probably my favorite example from my favorite thing that he's done, again, off of this 4-2-5 presentation, quarter 3, 846. Sorry, I'll remember to full screen it. I forgot on that one. I get carried away, you know, talking about.
Oh no, it's all good, man. I appreciate it, and I know the viewers will as well. But the thing that's interesting too is just you can see Leo in some of those double team situations. To your point earlier in the show, his ability to understand from film how to attack them. You can just see that experience, like how he's able to move, where he's like, you look at Byron a little bit, like Byron's explosive, but he's still almost a half-second difference in him and Leo getting off the ball right now, where I think if Byron's faster because he's got the mental experience and everything, he might be able to start splitting those double teams a little bit easier going forward.
Agreed. Yeah, so here you see Julian Love walking it back. So again, the Cardinals are in 12 personnel. They form like a pair trips or wing trips here. Seattle is again nickel personnel. You've got a 200-pound body type to a wing set. That's a potential problem on paper, right? Yeah. And it's like, how does Seattle play it? If they were to play this straight up and they run outside zone to the field, they might have a problem, right? But we talked about how they're trying to add numbers to the line of scrimmage to even it up. Because again, if we count, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers, 8 gaps, and you've got 7 guys in the box. So the way that they solve it this time, I'll just let the film speak for itself. They blitz the outside corner, and so with a cap blitz, and they kind of treat the receiver like he's not in the math, like they're kind of cheating, because if you do count him, then you're out gapped again. But they Kobe pushes to playing a cover 2 shell in the coverage, and he would technically have to fit off of this receiver. They trust Devin to get in to beat his number 1 receiver, to beat inside, so he can actually add to the math. I think it's cool that Devin actually engages him like he's actually there instead of just trying to pretend like he's not there. Because in doing so, it works 14. I think that's Wilson back outside, so we can work back inside. But again, when you add him to the core, when you add in the line of scrimmage, that evens the math, which lets everyone else flow. So they're not playing a passive technique. They don't have to sit and wait. and try to work back to the ball. They just get to go. And so cap blitzes are more rare, they're more unconventional. And you see Murphy kind of stemming inside to kind of help Devin get in there. I think technically, because they're gapped out now, D'Anthony Bell would technically be the C-gap player in here. He's kind of just vibing a little bit. But still, Leo knows that he's protected. He can play physically and fast, not have to worry about falling back because he knows Devin is coming. You see that back foot fire, this is such a good power step, like, because he's power stepping back foot forward, right? He's not mirror stepping.
Yeah.
That back foot's coming forward. Adjusting your power step. This is something Clint Hurt talked about in a clinic. And say what you will about him as a defensive coordinator, he knows how to coach a D-line, in my opinion, when he's the one in the room with them and stuff. So Leo understands this formation, right? Like, you get a wing set under center. There's no fullback, right? One of the things you're going to get is outside zone, right? Which is more or less what they get here. And so his right foot, look how he tilts his body toward the tackle off the snap, because he understands that guard is coming to reach him. You see 3 techniques get reached in the NFL, right? A lot of the time when it happens is because their initial footwork, if he came too vertical, too downhill, you could see how the guard would start to work across his face, right? So how quickly Leo gets his foot up and down, and his right foot comes down in the outside half of the guard. This is kick-ass, man. Like, he's just better. He's just better. And a lot of this isn't just him being 6'5" and a great athlete. This is film study. This is him looking at the pre-snap formation and then the initial footwork of the guard and knowing exactly what that means. And that's informing his technique. So film study, situation always informs technique. And he just dominates the guard, full block control. And then, of course, Devin, because he's a maniac, gets in there somehow because he's crazy. So
he's an assassin, man. He just finds his way to find himself near the ball at every point in time. So
so it's just cool football, dude. Like, we're just watching really cool football. We're watching a scheme that is evolved and developed and grown up, and it's answering the call of what his division is doing to him, and like, he's taking them head on. It's cool.
It's really cool, and I really appreciate you bringing that on, Griffin, and breaking that down for us. The thing that I find so interesting there is you can see the effect of this D-line now, understanding what Mike McDonald is asking of them and how it's affecting every other layer of this defense, because they're able to play at an elite level with that with the D-line scheme, and how much it's allowing everyone else to just play freely, react to things, and just move fast.
For sure. Totally. It's like talent, scheme, clarity are all like in a positive feedback loop right now. Everyone's on the same page. Clarity is huge. So they're going to be a tough team to run on all year. I don't see teams really being able to move them. So
all right, so Griff, that kind of wraps up a bit of this film breakdown, this defensive show. But as always, with all my guests that come on the show, we got to do the 2-minute drill. So I'm going to give you 10 rapid fire questions.
All right.
And just give me your quick answers. You can use a timeout if you need to think about something. Unfortunately, there's no call a friend or throw a challenge flag. So we'll get into the 2-minute drill right after this. All right, Griff. Question 1 on the 2-minute drill. Which defender has impressed you the most in 2025?
Easy answer, but I have to go Leonard Williams.
Okay. Question 2. What is the single biggest weakness they still need to fix in this defense?
Weak side linebacker.
Okay. Better pass rusher so far this year, Boy Mafe or Derek Hall?
That's really close. Maffei's finding the corner quietly really well. He's just not connecting, but Derek Hall's power, man. I'm going to go Derek.
Okay. Question 3. Who do you start outside in a pinch? Not Josh Jobe, but Kendrick or Nehemiah Pritchett?
Kendrick.
Most underrated part of Mike Macdonald's scheme that's not talked about enough.
Most underrated part. It's not talked about enough. Oh shoot, man. So I'm trying to think what is actually underrated. Probably coaching the eye progression of really all the guys. Really, I mean that's always the secret sauce, is how well individuals are coached. So probably the coaching.
Okay. Question 6. Where should Emmanwori line up most on Sunday versus the Buccaneers?
I mean, probably nickel. Yeah, probably nickel. Nickel against heavy personnel.
Okay. Question 7. Bigger concern versus the Bucs, Godwin or Mbuka?
I'm gonna go. Oh, man, I haven't watched enough of their film. I'm assuming Godwin's still in the slot. His ability to sit down in zones is really advanced, and they're not playing a lot of cover one, so he might really test their zone dropping that I've been praising. I think on the outside with Ibuka, they'll be able to handle him okay. I'm going to go Godwin.
Okay. Question 8. Will this defense be top 10, top 15, or top 5 by year's end?
I'm going to go they finished 6th, so technically top 10.
Okay. Question 9. Which young Seahawks defender will take the biggest leap by the end of the year?
Like from this point on, like who will improve the most?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'll say Derek Hall. He's just gonna. I think he might end the year as like the dude.
Okay. Question 10. What old-time Seahawk from the defensive side of the ball would you bring and add to this unit?
So any prior Seahawk.
Any prior Seahawk.
Earl Thomas.
Okay. And the bonus question for this 2-minute drill: give me one word to describe this defense so far this season.
Man, it's gonna be so like nerdy, but like just like sound. Just sound,
Okay. That's the 2-minute drill with Griffin Sturgeon from Seattle Overload. All right, Griff. So before we get out of here, I got to ask you a little bit about the Bucs game, or a little bit more about the Bucs game. What is your prediction for how this game will go on Sunday for the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think Seattle wins a close one. I think the Bucs present the most like whiteboard problems, the most on paper problems, at least their defense for Seattle's offense, than any other team they face, even more than the 49ers. Reason being, Bulls, I mean, his primary objective is putting teams in the hole on first down so that they're facing a really tough second and long. He knows how to stuff the run. They put 5 bodies up the line of scrimmage. So there's some like incidental overlap with what Mike is doing. And then the reason why he likes to put you in the hole is because then he likes to give you all these exotic pressure looks. And if there's one, like, it doesn't really bear out in the stats. It did until last game, because 4 games is such a small sample size. If there's one like film weakness for the offense, it's handling like 5 looks up front and like mugged linebackers and the interior twists. The communication, I think that gives them, they haven't fleshed out all of their answers for stuff like that yet. So I worry about the first down run offense and what that means for the second and third and longs with Bowles' pressure and blitz scheme, and the disguised coverages. If you suss out his coverage, though, it turns into a lot of really basic cover 3. So it's like who is what underneath defender is the hard part, but where they end up is pretty predictable. It's just who's going where. If you can block it up, you can read out the coverage. But if you can't block it up in time and you have to be hot, then the coverage disguise, the dropper disguise, can hurt you. The third and longs, he will trot out the fancy like Saban, Gary Patterson coverage menu. You see a lot of man match quarters on like 3rd and 12, which can be pretty fun. But hopefully they can avoid those scenarios.
And the last thing I'll ask you, Griff, because I hope to get you on before the end of the season, but what is the season ceiling for the Seattle Seahawks team, in your opinion? Has it changed from where you were in the offseason?
Well, yes and no. So they're ending up at the same place that I kind of predicted to this point. They're just getting there a little bit differently. I thought the pass offense would be a little bit worse, and I thought the run offense would be a little bit better. But it's averaged out, at least by EPA. They're 14th in EPA right now, but they still have the capacity to get better because the pass offense is so potent. And then Darnold just had his best game in the pure dropback scenario. Prior to this game, he was like 24th in success rate on pure dropbacks, but then he just had like an 80% success rate game just reading plays out. If that sustains, that might even merit Kubiak throwing a touch more to kind of take pressure off the run game. I don't know. You don't want to mess with the formula, but the way it's going right now, I predicted like a bang average offense and like the 7th-ish ranked defense. It's kind of what they are right now, but so much is in flux. Those numbers can change. And I think both numbers can improve. Right now, I think the offense can finish about 10th in all the fancy numbers, and the defense can finish 5th, 6th, 7th. That adds up to 11, 12 wins maybe. So they're like incrementally better than I thought they would be, I guess. So
yeah, I still for me, I expect them to be 4-0 at this point. The 49ers game was a bit of a letdown for me, but overall, I just want to see this running game be a little bit more consistent, not so much boom or bust as it currently is. I'd want to see a little bit more of the, hey, we're chunking out 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, and then we hit a 20-yard run kind of a thing. I that's one thing I'm hoping they start to get going here. But this game this weekend is going to be tough because we know that one thing on that Tampa Bay defense, they do have a Hall of Fame caliber player in Vita Vea sitting in the middle. So Sundell and Zabel and Bradford are going to have one heck of a test on themselves on this Sunday. But Griff, thanks, man, for coming on the show. Great to have you on the Hawks Eye for the first time. I know we've collabed on other shows prior to this, but it was awesome to have you come on and talk defense for this show. And I know my listeners are really going to appreciate it. But for that sake, tell my listeners where they can get more of your content and Maddie Brown's content and what you guys have maybe coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me on, Bryce. I love talking ball with you. Thanks for giving me the time and space to just rant and get all my declutter my brain on all the run fit stuff. I love hearing your insights on it too, especially with your offensive perspective. It's cool when those things collide. Maddie and I, we have podcast Seattle Overload. We're not uploading audio anymore. It's been too difficult for like silly reasons. So you can find us on YouTube. We try to go live. We're trying to do 2 episodes a week, but our schedules are jank with him being on another continent. So scheduling and everything, but we get an episode up at least once a week, with the exception of last week because Maddie traveled for work to the Sunday Night Football game last week. So that's where you can find us, and we talk about a lot of the same stuff Bryce talks about. We all kind of speak the same language, so it's fun when we're able to cross-pollinate a little bit.
Yeah, and everyone, the descriptions and the links for Maddie and Griff's Seattle Overload show will be posted down below. So make sure you guys go over there, sub up to their channel. I always watch their stuff because it always gives me a perspective on my offensive brain and how it works and how the other half lives on the defensive side. So I always love Maddie's perspective and yours as well, Griff. So, man, appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely have you back on in the future for sure.
For sure, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night, Griff.
All right. Peace out.
All right, guys. That was Griffin Sturgeon from Seattle Overload. Him and Maddie do some fantastic work on their show over there. One of my favorite guys to talk to, especially when it comes to talking defense and what Mike McDonald and that scheme is looking like as the season transpires. But as you heard from Griff, there's some things that they're doing better than they were doing last year. And there's some things that obviously still need to be worked on. And you got Griff's perspective on the Riq Woolen trade, which I'm sure is still going to be news as we move through these upcoming weeks until either it's resolved by the trade deadline or it's not. And we'll see what the Seattle Seahawks and John Schneider and Mike McDonald decide to do on that front. Overall, though, I always love talking with Griff and getting his perspective on, just the different things that they do on this defense, from, the run fittings to how they're attacking different things, what they're presenting to defenses, how it gives defense or offenses different looks and things to have to account for that maybe they didn't have to do last year because Seattle couldn't get to certain things. And we also got Griff's perspective on what they will do when Nick Emmanwori joins this lineup again, which, as I said, is Mike McDonald's last stone in that infinity gauntlet for this defense, I think. And there's going to be some pretty unique things he's going to probably cook up with having Nick Emmanwori back in this defense. So, guys, that's it for tonight's show. But before we get out of here, don't forget, as always, to like, subscribe to the channel, click that notification button. Once you do that, you'll always be notified of the new Hawks Eye shows when they come out. We'll have a live preview show Friday night with Mookie Alexander coming on to do a bit of State of the Hawks, as well as preview this Bucks game. I'll be talking to Dana O'Gorman later this week, and we'll be discussing defense, the whole Seahawks. We'll get Dana's whole perspective on where the Hawks are from where she thought they were going to be this offseason. So, with that all being said, everyone, have a good night and go Hawks.